know working 16 hours is bad for you.
Back to back to back, right? Not seeing the sun for 3 days, 4 days in a row. Yep.
And I'm not even in the casino.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today on the Elation podcast. Today we're with Sami Slovy. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm glad you came through. Talk a little bit about live events and some fun music stuff, but let's just start with your origin story and where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
I moved to New Orleans in 2003 to attend Tulane.
Okay.
And with the small bump of, little blip of Hurricane Katrina.
The blip.
The little blip. I have lived in New Orleans ever since. And
Gotcha.
It's home. And I kind of started working in the music industry here. And it really got its talons in me. And I stayed after graduating.
It'll do that to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What did you study at Tulane?
Business.
Business, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I have a business degree to work in the music industry.
Well, it is 90% business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
There's a lot of things that you have to have for foundation if you're actually going to make money in music.
Yeah, totally.
But no, New Orleans will do that to you. It'll definitely grab you and keep you here.
Yes.
I love Chicago, though.
It's wonderful in the summer
Mm-hmm.
and in the spring. Winter is just
Tough.
so cold.
Yes.
And I knew when I was really young that I was a warmer weather person. And so when I had the opportunity to leave, I started kind of looking to warmer places and came to visit New Orleans on a day in March where it was snowing when we left Chicago and got here and all the azaleas were in bloom and everything was just really beautiful. And I said, you know what? I think I could see living here. Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't really think I would be here, 20 plus years later, but here we are.
Here you are.
Yeah.
Well, so where did music grab you?
So I would say I really started attending a lot of New Orleans music shows while I was still in school. I spent a lot of time at Tipitina's and the Maple Leaf.
Yep.
And I was like, this is so cool. And then I had a friend who was working at French Quarter Fest. And she said, hey, they're hiring interns. I think you should apply. And I was like, sure, I like festivals. That sounds cool.
Right.
And I was young and I had no idea what it took to put on such an enormous event. And really, at the time, a lot of it was still being done like paper photocopies. I mean, I was making so many photocopies because you couldn't digitally apply for permits and nobody was emailing forms.
Right.
And so I learned a lot. And then when the festival happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. You see all these people just having the time of their lives, everybody smiling and having so much fun and just having a great time. And it was my first taste of, wow, I put all this hard work into, at the time, what I thought was really boring. It was just, making copies and like listening to my bosses. But to see that my tiny piece in such a large event, paid off, it was so rewarding for so many people. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. From there was a company that was booking the event at the time, and they hired me once I graduated, and I worked there for a few years and then decided I wanted to tour with bands. And so
you really wanted to put yourself to work.
Right. Exactly. So I quit. I started freelancing / bartending until, and then because I had made so many relationships with people from that job, I ended up kind of just reaching out to a lot of people and just really consistently reaching out to people. And as I met new people, just every few months, hey, checking in, until I really got a break. I toured with a couple local bands and then had a friend that I had met working a music festival out of town. And she said, hey, I'm going to get off the road. I think this would be a really great fit for you for touring. And so that was, and that once you do one, you're kind of in it, and it just goes and goes 100%. And goes. So
yeah, it's hard to get off of the train once you've started it.
Yeah. So I think I have almost successfully stopped touring. Almost. I like to call myself a recovering tour manager. So, but it's been great because what I have found, over the many years is my passion really is in more festival production and event producing.
Right.
I like putting everything together to have like that one event or festival and really just see it come to life and all of the minutia that goes into it. So,
Well, we have a similar
yeah.
story on how music got to us. So, because I was in the car business
Oh,
when I was in my early 20s. Well, I got my first license when I was 17 for the
okay.
car business. But in my early 20s, my partner and I started doing car events. We were in the exotic world. So we would do like a racetrack day and then we would do a showcase day for the public.
Sure.
And started building it up, got pretty big. I mean, the last one we did, we had 500 supercars in Palm Beach and blocked off like 8 blocks on the intercoastal, and it was growing really, really big. But I just randomly got tasked with doing the entertainment.
Of course.
So I started, booking the stage and doing all the production stuff and then booking the acts. And after doing it for a couple of years, I was like, well, we have 8 to 10,000 people showing up to our car shows. Why am I booking an act that we're not attached to?
Sure.
So I picked a local band that I liked and started using them for every event that we did and sold CDs and hats and shirts and did the whole thing and managed the band. And it just kind of grew from that moment. And at some point I looked back and I was like, yeah, I think I'm cool with the car business. Like I think I'm going to go ride this music thing out, and it kind of was it from there.
I've heard so many origin stories about how people got in the industry, and I think exotic cars, that's a first. That's definitely a first for me. But I like that that's how that was your gateway into the industry.
Yeah,
that's
well,
cool.
I enjoyed the cars, but I didn't love the cars.
Sure.
Like I enjoyed the business of the transactions. I did a lot of the wholesale stuff, so like I was in the car auctions all the time. Like I enjoyed that type of thrill, but I could really not could give the cars away. Like it really didn't matter to me.
Sure.
Music was always a part of something I love, especially being from New Orleans.
Right.
So once I got the bug, it was like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Bye, guys. So it's funny how music can give you such peace inside, even if you're not stable.
Yeah. And I think, for me, what it is seeing how much joy it brings other people.
Right. Well, French Quarter Fest, especially, in my opinion, it's for New Orleans, it's the best way to see the city. Because it kind of turns the French Quarter into like adult Disney World.
Right.
And you really get to experience the quarter the way it should be experienced.
Sure.
So I think it's one of the best festivals ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go every year now, but I think they've grown it, and you're right. You can see the quarter, you can go see music, you can grab a bite to eat, you can grab a drink, and it's great for all the businesses there too. It'll be interesting to see they're moving it this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that changes things.
Yeah, 100%. Well, so let's talk about live entertainment. If you were to pick, I guess, a band that you've been on tour with that you would say is maybe your favorite, and then maybe say some of those locations, like some of the places that you went that are cool.
That's so funny because people ask me that all the time, and I'm like, I don't have a favorite. I've toured with small acts in a van and trailer. I've toured with, large arena tours where, I was production coordinator on a Kendrick Lamar tour several years ago.
Okay.
And somebody had gotten fired, and I knew somebody, and they called me, and the tour had already started, and the person who I was replacing had no notes, nothing written down. So I'm like building out a 90-person crew list from scratch with contact information, figuring out who all the bus drivers are and who's on what bus,
right.
Coordinating all the truck drivers and how many trucks we have. They hadn't booked hotel rooms for the whole tour. So then you're booking hotel rooms for 90 plus people. So that I think was a tremendous learning experience, but I also learned towards the end of it that, on those types of tours, you wake up, you're in the arena. Sometimes in Canada, your bus is parked underneath the arena, and you leave when it's dark and you don't see the sunlight all day.
Yep.
And I realized pretty quickly that was not the vibe of touring. That was great for me. And I really did find a lot of success touring with indie rock acts because great pace, good schedule. You're loading in around 10, so you can wake up, you can go walk around the city you're in, you can have a cup of coffee. Usually have days off in really cool places because those people want to like go to national parks or be in a cool city like New Orleans or somewhere else. So I feel grateful. I've been to, I think, 49 of the 50 states. I've gotten to tour in Alaska. That was a highlight. Georgia, the country, another huge highlight. I think one thing that for me made touring really enjoyable is if the tour ended somewhere cool, I would extend the trip.
Right.
I'm like, okay, tour's over. I mean, I've got a little bit of computer work to do. Of course, you have to finish out all the financials and the settlements. But I can spend 4 days in Alaska because when else am I ever going to
be here?
Be in Alaska?
Yep.
Same thing. That's why I cite Alaska and Georgia as the two coolest places. I mean, we ended a tour once in Batumi, Georgia. And whenever am I ever going to be in Batumi, Georgia? And I said to my now husband, I was like, so, I'm going to need you to meet me in Georgia and we're going to travel in Georgia. And I don't even think he had a passport at the time. And he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, this tour ends here. And I feel like we would regret it for the rest of our lives if we didn't check it out. And what a beautiful country. If you ever have the chance to go, I definitely recommend it. So I think one thing, especially in my 20s, that I loved about touring was you can see the world. You can see the country. You can go to all these different places.
What do you think is the biggest difference between international touring and national touring?
It depends on the country.
Okay.
Europe treats musicians well. If you're in Europe with New Orleans musicians, they treat you remarkably well. They feed you, they put you in nice hotels, they roll out the red carpet. They love New Orleans music and they really want to be there and savor it. You go to Japan and they're like very helpful. And even with pop acts in Japan, they give you a translator. Indonesia too, other Asian countries, they give you a translator and they're like, okay, we want to make this a special experience for you. We're going to do everything we can so that you'll come back. And I think that international promoters recognize that it is a tremendous cost, especially for mid and low level bands to get there.
Right.
That they want to make the experience so positive that those artists want to come back. I have not had the opportunity to tour in South America, so I can't speak on that. But in the US, musicians aren't treated great all the time. I mean, you get to a venue and you're like lucky if there's catering.
Yep.
You're lucky if it's like not right out of the Cisco truck.
A clean bathroom.
Right. You're lucky if there's a clean bathroom.
Right.
You're like, sometimes I've shown up for load-ins and I'm like, can we get some bottled water? And they're like, oh, no, we don't have any bottled water. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What do you mean? Like, there's been shows where I've had to like, okay, where's, thankfully for cell phones, now you can just Uber Eats yourself some bottled water in cases of water. But it's just very interesting in that domestically, musicians aren't always treated as great as they are internationally. And I think, I can speculate that on all day on that, but it's become so capitalistic in the US that the promoters aren't thinking about how can I make this experience better for this musician. They're thinking about their bottom line. They're thinking about where can we cut costs to make a profit? How are we going to make money? Where can we save money?
Absolutely.
And that sometimes affects the tour. Luckily, a good tour manager isn't going to let the musician know about those types of things. You try to just, make it as smooth and cool as you can. When you have a sold out show, you have so much more leverage because there is a little bit of money to work with. But for the most part, I think in the US, it's become so capitalist that it's, and because the the live industry has consolidated so much to two main promoters, as well as it's, independent promoters and independent venues are increasingly rare. So I think that the biggest difference is internationally, they're thinking about the music and the experience. And domestically, for the most part, with a few exceptions, they're thinking about, are we making money? Are we losing money? How can we make more money?
100%. Well, and because I have not been on the management side of really the full festivals or as far as the bands. Normally I'm on, at least when I got to scale, was on the live sound side, doing the live sound, doing the music direction, and been a promoter as well. So I kind of see on that side. And for me, at least nationally, I feel like there's like no system that that venues follow. Every venue is a different system. Different people do different things, different ways. There's not anything that you can count on for that venue to handle.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest headache, was just having to experience into a new city what's going to happen.
Right.
And and the sound people that are there, and the gig people that are there, and the grips and everybody. They might show up late, they might not show up at all, they might show up drunk. Like there's so many moving parts on that side that you just, because you don't, when I was doing it, I had people I was working with constantly. So I knew I had my system. So
Yep.
I knew exactly what was going to happen for the most part. But once I started branching out and doing other states and other cities, I was like, man, I might as well show up early to see what's going to happen, because there's always something going to go wrong.
I think a lot of touring production managers and tour managers would tell you deep down that they actually love that part of it because it makes their job more challenging.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that to
All
be
right.
true, but
For me, I think
it keeps it interesting.
Well, it gives me the excuses, it's never my fault. It's
Right.
always someone else's fault.
Totally. And look, like most people I know in the industry got into it, one, because they love music or love events, but they didn't want to be desk jockeys. They didn't
Right.
want to sit at a desk in a cubicle all day.
Right.
So those challenges and those, those things that you face when you're on the road, those inconsistencies, they kind of just make the day a little bit more
Oh,
interesting.
100%. Well, I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people, but the cash back ends for a lot of the urban space artists, counting hundreds in the bathroom stall type of situations.
I have not had the pleasure of counting hundreds in a bathroom stall, but
Got
I've heard the stories. Have you had the
I
pleasure
have,
of doing
I
that?
have, yes. So Annalie Choppa's mom took me in the men's bathroom stall, closed the door, locked the stall door, and counted $25,000 in hundreds, one by one. Took her a minute and literally took the bills up to the
Wow.
light, each one. I said, you must have been screwed. And she was. So yeah, I've had those experiences.
Were they all there? All 25,000
All
of them?
25, yep, all
Wow.
25,000.
Nice.
Yep. Well, we were all good.
Yeah.
She looked at me and smiled. That was it. It was like, all right. But it's I can't explain it to a lot of people, because those moments are so I guess independent of the entire situation, and very personal, because they all happen in individual moments, individual times. And it's like, to explain that to someone who doesn't understand what events have, they think it's absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't realize that happens all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. And, when you're on the tour or production manager side, a lot of times it's your job to figure out how to make it happen.
Right. No, 100%. Well, I loved the movement and the you're right, the chaos that happens. It definitely makes things more fun. What about the chaos that happened after COVID? Because everything has changed. And you talk about capitalistic, because I mean, even as a promoter, I've kind of dived out of even being a promoter because of how crazy things have gotten. I mean, even just from the price of the acts.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think if you take a really granular look, yes, everything's crazy. From a consumer standpoint, ticket prices are unaffordable.
Right.
I don't know how sustainable that's going to be. especially as the cost of everything is going up. But from a crew standpoint, one of the biggest, great things that happened was after COVID, crew are finally being paid what they're worth.
Right.
Before COVID, rates were low-ish.
Yeah, if
They
you're not
were
in a union
fine.
state, yeah.
Well, even if you're just touring,
Right.
and you're not working locally, rates were fine. They were manageable. But for being away from home, constantly traveling, constantly being in a different place, you kind of are starting to see post-COVID people being paid better rates, fair rates. There has been a huge push in the industry for mental health awareness. There's all these organizations that have evolved.
Who knows working 16 hours is bad for you?
Back to back to back, right? Not seeing the sun for 3 days, 4 days in a row. Yep.
And I'm not even in the casino.
Yep. So, I think there have been some really advantageous things to come out of COVID, like, mental health awareness and resources and services for touring crew, and not just for artists, for actual crew, and some better rates. Outside of that, you're seeing it. I think in our everyday lives, we're experiencing it, especially right now with fuel costs being so high. When you're touring, you rely on fuel. Your bus needs fuel. Your van needs fuel. Your trucks need fuel. Diesel, I think I Googled the cost of diesel yesterday for a generator. I think it's around $5 a gallon is the national average. Yeah. Buses and trucks run on diesel. Right. And they're traveling thousands of miles on a tour. So that all adds up really quickly. And I think a lot of people outside of the industry don't think about that. And that's why ticket costs have gone up so much, because the cost of doing the tour and the cost of doing the business has gone up exponentially. Most tours are breaking even. Right. They are only making their money on merch. They're making their money on streaming, or what do you call them? Like deals where they're in commercials and things like that, placement, sponsorship stuff. Right. Most tours are breaking even. Right. And their profit comes in merch, sponsorship deals.
Maybe a bar split.
Maybe, but the promoter most cases is getting the bar split. The artist usually is not seeing that money. The promoter's seeing it. The artist isn't seeing it. Yeah. So
we used to manipulate the bar tab and the parking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. As a promoter.
Yeah.
You can get a cut of parking and a cut of the bar tab.
Yeah.
Sure. It's a great move for a promoter.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially when things are squeezed so tight,
Right. And that's really where promoters are making most of their money.
Right.
But yeah, I would say right now, if you're a touring artist and you don't have great merch and you don't have a really great, merch plan and a really
somebody
pushing it, merch that looks good, a setup that wants people to buy things. It's really hard to make money in the industry right now. Conversely, if you're a music fan and you really love a band, you should buy their merch on tour.
Right, absolutely.
It helps them.
Support.
Taylor Swift might not need our merch money, but the lower levels, the non-Taylor Swifts.
No, 100%. So. Well, talking about some from the promoter side, booking acts has gotten crazy. Now, independent acts are different because you can negotiate and you can talk and you can explain, the dynamics of the show and all that stuff. A major act, Live Nation will overpay for the artist by so much that the artist now thinks that they're worth more when they're not selling any more tickets. Yep. But Live Nation can do it because they own the venue. And as amongst other things, and the agency.
And the ticketing.
And the ticketing. Mm-hmm. So, it makes it to where, which is why you don't see a lot of independent promoters as of right now, because they've pushed us all out of a price range.
Totally.
We used to book Wayne for 150. You can't touch him now for less than 700.
Wow. And he's not even on a bus, I don't think.
No. Yeah. No. And also not selling crazy amounts of tickets.
Right.
He might be good for 4,000 tickets, but when you spend 700,000 on an act,
you need more than that.
Yeah. So it's gotten to where now it's not even fun at that point because there's too much risk in the game.
Well, it's tough too, because as the bigger the act is, the more people that have their hands in the pot, right? So you're a bigger act, you've got management. They are getting usually 15-20% off the top. Then you've got a booking agent. There's
Right.
another 15-20% off the top. Then you have a business manager.
Right.
And then you've probably got a full-time marketing team or some, that's getting some sort of percentage deal. So, the bigger the act, the more the money, more people have their hand in the pot essentially. And the
Absolutely.
more the money is like, less and less and less. Again, that's why I say merch, because that's where the money actually transfers to the band or transfers to the artist. Yeah, so I think that has a lot to do with it, but I agree with you with the large promoters that are cornering the market. It makes it really hard for independent promoters to have any skin in the game whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of those shows are also where acts would make their extra money because an independent would see, okay, you're in Chicago, then you're in Salt Lake. Let me hit you somewhere in between that you're driving through anyway that you don't have right now, and give you that extra boost of money,
Sure. But maybe you're a giant promoter that's doing the rest of the tour, has, exclusivity,
Right.
or you have radius
The
clauses.
radius clauses. Yeah. Yes.
So, I think there's like kind of a little bit of a strong arm mentality with some of the larger tours in that sense.
Do you think AI is going to help you at all
In which part of my job?
well, any part of the management side of a live event?
I think operationally and automating some processes, it can help with that. And kind of, on the organizational side, but like, can AI come step in with my institutional knowledge that I've garnered over 25 years in the industry?
No, I feel like it's one of
No.
the few industries that you still have to have that personal touch because once again, you never truly know what you're going to experience when you walk into that venue.
Right.
Unless you've been there a bunch of times, somebody there, the system.
Right.
But if you step into a new venue, you've got new people to meet, new problems to deal with, new timings, new everything. And I just don't see AI being able to handle
Right.
any of that stuff on site.
And on a live show, what's AI
Right.
going to do? They're not
Right.
going to sit and patch cables. They're not
Right.
going to AI can't experience the music for you. It can't. Well, I mean, I
Not
guess
yet.
now there's I guess now there's AI like musicians, but I don't understand how that would work live. And I also think, and I teach a course in the fall at Loyola's music business. I tell my students this all the time. I think as technology and screens and AI are more omnipresent in our lives, there is more of a desire for people to have a real experience, a live show, something that they can feel. That's not a screen kind of like clicking all of their things in their head and
Right.
making them, want more. And
Right.
I think that people crave interpersonal interactions. I think that people crave an experience. They want to hear music. They want to be around other people who want to hear that music. I think there's a lot to be said about like a niche festival or a niche event that is, one genre and like one unifying thing that people are all into together. And then other people like that can find their like person instead of a large pop festival where there's
Right.
just, who's going to sell tickets?
Right.
If you think about it more from an experiential standpoint, what is going to bring people together? Because that's ultimately, I think, in this AI world, that's really what people want. They want human
Right.
interaction.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on the entertainment space. I feel like it has pushed or is going to push people to want to be in the room with the music, not the computer. Although there is some grounds, like the Gorillas did it years ago. They weren't on stage performing, and it was a bunch of screens. And,
Oh, right, sure.
in Asia, they've been doing anime acts for years. So there is some precedent to it. But I feel like, especially after COVID, going back to COVID, I feel like we were so separated for so long that it has pushed people back into wanting to sit next to somebody.
Yeah.
But I just think it's because we talk about AI and music a lot. That's a lot of the conversation nowadays.
Sure.
So it's just fun. For me, it's fun to come up with segments of the industry that can't be replaced by AI, so that people understand that there are still going to be spots where people are needed.
Do you find on the recording side of things
It's changed everything.
Really?
Changed everything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For the better?
Yes and no. So studio ownership wise, it's hard to navigate the where it's moving and where it's going. Because basically, if you've gotten good enough at AI and good enough at some of the programs, you don't need to come to the studio anymore.
Sure.
Now that gap still isn't been crossed, especially in this city yet. In LA, there's probably a lot more artists that are doing stuff like that in some of the bigger cities. But as from what I know from AI right now and how I can use it, I don't need an engineer. I don't need a producer.
Wow.
I don't need a mixing engineer. I don't need a mastering engineer. I don't need a video editor. I need somebody to hold the camera, but you really could do it on the tripod. And nowadays you do have AI following cameras that will follow you.
Yeah.
So it's a game changer on that level. Now, you also have to be willing to do everything in AI.
Sure.
Like
you still have to input everything.
Yeah.
So it spits it back out, right?
Yeah, 100%. You still have to know the prompts and truthfully what you want and how to direct the computer. And, there is definitely some creative moments, but you've actually become more of the executive producer because now you're just
managing.
You're managing the things it spits out at you and changing.
Right.
So
from an ethics standpoint, like how does it make you feel? Because for me, I always grapple with like the ethics of AI, right? So like from an ethics standpoint, how does it make you feel like, okay, I'm now not hiring people to do this? And
so for me, that's the number one. Session musicians are going to, in my opinion, the ones that are going to suffer the most from this type of situation.
Sure.
That being said, if you are a true musician and you have the budget to hire musicians, I still feel like you're hiring musicians.
Sure.
So I feel like for me, this is changing for those budgets that don't have the money for session musicians that can now do things. So I don't know if it dynamically truly changes too much.
What about like on the support side though, like the engineer and the mixing and the mastering and all of that?
I mean, honestly, because mixing's very subjective,
right?
So it's production,
sure.
So I feel like the algorithms for mixing have gotten good enough, especially if you're getting stuff out of an AI production software. It spits out a decent mix. Like everything is leveled properly, everything has got its own space. You really don't need to mix it from that point. You're really just kind of mastering it and boosting up the volume.
Wow.
And then maybe treating the vocals a little differently if that's what you like. But it basically spits it out mixed.
Wow.
So you master and you boost up the volume and you do your little creative thought processes on that ending finishing side, and that's it.
Wow. Makes this obsolete.
This is a little different because it's Atmos, but yes, it does make the board somehow obsolete.
Wow.
Now, once again, you have to be wanting a digital sound because you still can't get the audio, the analog sound.
Sure.
But I've played both sides with it. So like I've done it all digital, and then I've also done it in AI, spit it out with stems, and then run it through my analog board. And then you get that analog sound.
Sure.
So you really can do it with AI.
Yeah.
It's just about your process and how you want to.
It's fascinating.
I the first week I dove into it, it ruined me. I lost all creativity. I got depressed. I was sitting there like, oh my God, and Then I started to realize that I still have to be creative with it. I still have to know what I'm saying in my prompts.
Sure.
You can't just type in 3 words and think you're going to get spit out a professionally a
Sure.
professional track.
Sure.
And so it started making me feel a little better. And then I started realizing the dynamics of how I can use it. And I'm continuing to pull it into my world. I mean, even, recording engineers now, they can be off site.
Right. Well, that's been the case for quite a while.
Yeah, I feel like the latency was an issue for a while.
Sure.
I feel like the last few years it's gotten pretty much streamlined with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think all technology can be helpful. I just worry about the back end, because if you devalue all of the processes in music, you devalue music even more.
Yep.
And we already did that with streaming, and now that process is going to happen again.
Right.
So,
well, and you're still consolidating it to the few,
right,
who have the power and the money.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So
taking it out of the hands of the creatives who have the actual inspiration to create and write and.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, pluses and minuses, we'll see. But I mean, honestly, music is, like I said, we went through one transition that we still haven't figured out. Now we're getting ready to go through another transition. Yeah. So it's going to be tough. Movies, I feel like, are going through the streaming transition right now.
Right.
And next will be the AI production for
Which
movies.
I think they're probably doing both at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. We'll see where it ends up. But in the end, I hope people want to get into a room and see something real.
I think so. I think especially as kids are in front of screens in schools and stuff like that, who wants that?
Right.
We're human. We're
Right.
meant to interact with one another. We're meant to be in rooms and spaces together. We're meant to have conversations. I mean, that is what differentiates us from most mammals.
Right.
So, why would we give that up and I think as the screen digital age is kind of forced on us more, I think people are going to be really hungry for those live experiences.
Well, and you see a little bit of the pushback from the technology in the screens, in the schools starting to put them away now, and which hopefully helps. And
I hope so.
I mean, because that is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best things you can do is get them off the screen and just in front of people.
Yeah.
Because the amount of socially awkward kids in their 20s right now is unbelievably scary.
I know. I teach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And you can tell the kids whose parents put screens in front of their faces,
right.
and you can tell the kids whose parents made them go outside and play or do other things.
Right.
Now, obviously, schooling during COVID really affected those kids quite a bit.
Absolutely.
But it is noticeable.
Yeah, 100%. So hopefully as a society, we could push back and bring it all in, and then it helps us on that whole front, know? Any new bands that you're managing?
Nope. And I actually stay out of management. I mostly do, formerly a tour manager. And now I'm mostly just remote tour manage, can do it from the comfort of my own home and, still organize and do all the logistics, but don't get phone calls at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So,
I know that feeling.
Yeah. So, who knows, maybe one day I'll make the jump into management. But for now, kind of just sticking to the, advancing everything and making sure the shows happen successfully and putting all the details together. And, and then in the fall, I produce Hell's Gala, which is a EDM festival in New Orleans that takes place around Halloween. So I'll start gearing up for that in a few months here, which is always really exciting. And I don't listen to EDM music, but we're building out a full site and I like all of that. And people come and they love it and they're excited about it. And that's ultimately what you want, right?
There's always been a good underground EDM scene here.
Yes, of course. Going back to the Disco Donnie days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, State Palace and all that. Sure.
100%.
I was speaking with somebody about that earlier today, actually. So,
It's been around for a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of little grouped out, there's a big underground rock, kind of like a really heavy rock scene. And we did a band here called More October, where we did their new album here. And they're like a emo Deftones.
Cool.
Yeah, but there's like a whole bunch of that type of genre. I guess it's kind of grunge rock, but I feel like it's better than grunge.
Yeah.
You know. But there's a whole scene, and they all have cassette tapes that they're selling as their merch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Where
like,
do you even buy a cassette player?
yeah, that's not the point for them.
Okay, got it.
That's like their instead of T-shirts or anything like that. That's what
tangible.
That's what they use as their tangible.
One of the conversations that I often have with colleagues in the industry is like going back to paper tickets.
Right.
Because it's, you know, I'm sure you're similar of age that you have a shoebox full of paper tickets from all the concerts you've been to.
Absolutely.
I sure do.
Yep.
And nowadays you don't get that. And I feel like that was like such a fun souvenir where you could
Absolutely.
like, you remembered that you were at that show because you had the ticket and it didn't cost you anything, but you
Right.
had the paper ticket. And I always wish we would go back to paper tickets just for the sheer, you know, having that tangible thing that says I was at that show. I think a cassette tape scratches the same itch.
Absolutely. I tell artists all the time, go back to the trunk sale.
Right.
Whatever it is, sell it out of your trunk
Yep.
or sell it individually to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's tangible. It's a physical item. It will strike an emotion
Yep.
that will stay with them forever.
Yep.
And just don't worry about the 100 million people you can reach, and worry about the 100 people you can.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
So well, we have similar thought processes
I
on
think
that
so.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, great. I appreciate the conversation today.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Any socials you'd like to share, or?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, A-Line Productions NOLA. And yeah, that's my company. And
Awesome.
yeah. So
Awesome.
you can find me there.
Well, reach out if you
Yeah.
need somebody to handle all of your event stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us today. If you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe to the Elation Podcast, and see you next time. Peace.